Hello everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. As I've said before, I've been struggling a bit lately, probably because everything's just all Christmassy type stuff to find suitable films, and I was looking for something a bit different, so I went like in a random rabbit hole and I found this. So this is an anime. It's from back in, back in 2010. And apparently it's based off a video game, which I have not played. So I can't tell you much about that, unfortunately. Yeah, you know me in games, I'm not super up to date and all that kind of stuff. But it seems interesting enough. I might try and get a chance to check it out. See if it's on Steam or Epic or something. But basically, I had a crack at Divine Comedy back when I was in like late teens, early 20s. You only go through that phase of, ooh, I'm a student, ooh, I am academical, I'm intellectual, I should read all the law books. And being a young twat, went in one ear out the other, as usual. You know, it's we've all been there. We know how it is, and as you get older, you slow down a bit and you take that time just to digest stuff and realize it's not the end of the world that you don't consume amounts of volumes of text and stuff and spout it back to people, because yeah, that makes you a really interesting person. But yeah, I had a crack at Dante's Inferno. I think it's Italian, so it's a wee bit tricky, I think, sometimes in the translation. It's Holy World text as well, it's poetry, and it's that kind of mix. But the staple of this tale has stood the test of time. It's one of the seven circles of hell, Cerberus, Dante himself, Cerberus, not Cerberus, Cerberus, three-headed dog. There's a bit of Greek mythology thrown in here, so you've almost got like crossing the river Styx. So it kind of shows how folklore, stories and tales travel and transcend cultures, which is not a bad thing. We should always, those that have interesting stories to tell, we should always hear them. Today's world we're not, everything's gets modeled and Hollywoodized, and it's just not that interesting. But actually, true folk tales that have the flavor of the area and the people involved in them, they're the ones that lasted. Grim fairy tales. Oh, hey Chris. You like the red of all different colors? It can be disco lights and all sorts of things. I was finding white light very stark when doing this, and I've been planning this for a while. Plus, I've got a new bookcase, and that was the idea. Get this little area finished off. So yeah, I'm actually quite pleased. It softens everything. If you've seen my earlier videos, just very in your face, and I don't like that. And I'll play about with different hues and tones and stuff throughout time. So it's nice to do it. But yeah, I'm a weirdo and I'm easily amused. There you go. But yeah, this is a good animation. It's not anime. It's old school. Sort of. I know a lot of the Japanese writers with this, so you can kind of see the influences, but it's old school Western animation, which is cool. I miss that. I miss that kind of level of storytelling and people not being afraid to put it. In the end, animation is just another medium. It can be for children, it can be adult. It's the same as movies. Movies can be for children, be for adult. There's an awful stigma with people watching animated things. I don't get it. You have to kind of understand it's just another art form. There's no difference between that and reading a graphic novel or a comic or a book. Each has their own merit and each has their own ability to tell a story or show you a story in a certain way. For example, this being done live action, especially if it was done today, it would just be CGI, which is effectively animation anyway. And everyone troops out to the cinema to see modern day 3D animation. So I don't say it, but they'll poo-poo on actual animation and anime that's done with artists and drawing boards and stills. And back in 2010, computer animation was becoming a thing, but it was still the traditional style, which took a long time, a lot of effort. It's the same as practical effects. People, well, I suppose, normies, or not really normies, but people who just consume, don't really consider what they're watching. They'll look back and see practical stuff, and we do that for sure, you see it all now. But they're not really there for an experience. They're just there to consume the next product, move on to the thing. They're not really taking anything in, which I was guilty of in my earlier years. Which I'm glad I'm doing this now because I've got a bit of time to think about stuff. But back to this. Dante himself, he was a crusader, one of Richard Ladhart's Holy Crusade to Jerusalem, all that kind of stuff. And that, of course, religious wars, always a lot of fun. No hypocrisy there at all. Using it to land grab. Everyone's been doing it for as long as a human animal's been crawling around the place. We've always found ways to bash each other over the head with rocks and then come up with an excuse that we're the right ones to do it. It's just the way we are. And it's not stopped. And it will not stop. I think that's so funny about today, is people think it's all stopping nastier than ever. And it's not like war disappeared. It'll always be war. As long as there's us, it'll happen. We can't even sit. Look at the fan base of a franchise. We can't even sit there and enjoy it. Somebody will have an argument and then it turns into gangs and blah, blah, blah. That's just the way we are. But it kind of fitting with his character. He's way crusade. And we see the bit where the church absolves them of all sin. It's almost like giving them free pass to go mental. And they're over in Jerusalem. They're carrying out acts that aren't necessarily, there's honorable combat. There's even talk of, I should have wrote this. Me, I don't take notes of these live streams, but Christian prisoners were released as they negotiated. Dante was in charge of a prison camp. I think what we're seeing here, he's suffering from a wee bit of bloodlust and seeing a couple of friends, so he's corrupted himself. But if you're told you've got a free pass, there's no consequences, that kind of alters your perception and your limits in what you'll do. And that's kind of what holds society together, that you don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. There's consequences. And that's what kind of stops us all eating each other. But there you go. So you see him, he's going through the Crusades, and that's kind of done in flashbacks through it, because the movie starts, he's racing back to his beloved Beatrice, and he arrives back at his home. He's being followed by somebody, but every time he tries to confront them, they're shift out of the sight. So they're always they're letting him know, the figures letting him know he's there, but never giving him a chance to confront them. Then he goes back, and his entire household is dead. His servants, then he finds Beatrice, who's barely alive, and then he dies in her arm. And this type of animation is similar to the animation used in Castlevania, the Castlevania series, which I quite like. I like the style. It's not cartoonish. It's not. It still managed to have its own flavor. Like the Spawn series. That was in HBO, the animated series. That managed to have its own feel and texture. So does this. We'll see. So there's no two comparisons if you've seen any of those two, for what this animation's like. We'll then see Dante, as Beatrice dies, he's confronted by Lucifer, who steals, because we see Beatrice, who's pure of heart, which I don't understand, because later on we get a wee bit of a glimpse that maybe she wasn't. But she's ascending to heaven, and then Lucifer snatches her because of something Dante did. He broke a promise, which is kind of the whole premise behind this movie. So because he broke a promise, Lucifer's then allowed to snatch Beatrice, who's a pure soul, bound for heaven. She was ascending. He grabs her, disappears into hell, and Dante follows her. And this is where the whole adventure comes in. Now I can't remember for the life of me. Correct me on those who have read Divine Comedy recently or have a better memory than me. Is this the same premise of Dante's Inferno, his journey into the 7 levels of hell? Is this the same premise? Because I feel like me can't remember. So let me know in the comments. No cheating in Google, by the way. No, actually read the thing, or if you haven't, don't spoof, because that's not very sporting. I get spoofed from going to Wikipedia and pretend to know stuff, and that's not what we're about here. I don't mind putting my fallacies out on camera. But there you go. Then he, in his pursuit, he encounters each of the levels. So the first one's limbo. He learned that Beatrice had actually become pregnant with his child because of the night together, which, once again, this is where the hypocrisy, fallacies, people that I'm always wary of people who claim to be morally superior, and we see it across the board. We see it today. Those that claim to have the moral high ground, you always got to watch them. Those that claim to be super pure and all that kind of stuff, you look at them and go, right, okay, what are you really at? Because if you're nothing wrong having a set of morals, you crack on, do your thing. It's those that are constantly telling you about it, you gotta watch. And this is the case. He's supposed to be a soldier of God, yet, and this is the 1100s, and these two are supposed to be bound for marriage, yet they're having extramarital sex, no sex outside marriage, which is a sin, essentially. Now, did this happen? Because I can't remember exactly. I watched this last night. Did this happen after they were absolved of all sin or before? I have a funny feeling it was after, because I think the whole premise of this is that the priests or whatever else absolving them of, you get a free pass. I think that's kind of the backstory of all of this, which falls through in other things. But yeah, we find out that Beatrice was pregnant, she had a stillbirth. He finds the baby was supposed to be his son, and then it turns out they're all turned little demon baby crap things. And this is the whole thing about unbaptized babies, being brought into play. And that's a whole thing about folklore. Just remember, the horror genre is descended from folklore. Folklore are horror stories. Even though they get dressed up fluffy for the modern audience, they're not. And the whole point of horror is it's a warning. That was the idea. Don't stray from the path. I've talked about this hundreds of times, so I'm not repeating myself, I'm sure, but don't stray from the path. Know what you're opening. Don't enter into bargains with unknown entities, all that kind of stuff. And the big thing, unbaptized babies, they get stolen and become demons and blah, blah, blah. I think that was all behind it. At time, pregnancy was dangerous. So anything that could be built into this psyche of don't get pregnant willy-nilly, have your household built up, have all that support, because you could die. And if you're shunned from society, then your mortality rate, not just of your child, but you. And that was kind of for both birds. And then the idea that the baby would be unbaptized and damned, and then that would reflect you and your social status. These are all built in mechanisms by our chimp brains to try and be semi-sensible, I suppose. Especially back then, obviously, as the world changes, morality changes with it, priorities change and stuff. But you have to take this in context of its time. And the reason I'm saying that because there's absolutely lunatics out there that if everything is not 2022, getting in 2023 now, right this minute, this moral standard, this perspective, it's evil, it's wrong. We have changed and evolved, and we'll continue to do it. People think our evolution as human beings has stopped, that this is the epitome. It bloody isn't. I mean, we've still a long way to go. Like I said, we're still war, we'll still bash each other. The minute you remove the comforts of society, we will eat each other. That's the bottom line. And I've embraced that, so that's why I'm comfortable. Just it doesn't terrify me like it does other people, because the minute you understand who you are, you're kind of more at peace. The ones who are angry or aren't. As you can tell, this is a very philosophical piece, although it's done in a sort of action setting. I mean, there's a lot of combat on it, but at the same time, there's the underlying philosophical message of what each level of hell means, and it's a personal perspective. You have to see that every level of hell has the damned of some description and how they got there, and that's where it gives you a wee bit of a perspective. And it's good. There's nothing wrong with delving into this. There used to be, when I was growing up, there was because this is obviously through the lens of Christianity, but when I was growing up, Channel 4 used to do Saturdays, used to do a lot of sort of Hindu series. So they told their folk stories through the lens of Hinduism and Buddhism. I think the two are mixed. Don't shoot me if I've got that wrong. Not claiming to be some sort of theologian here. But it's interesting. They're interesting stories, and it's interesting to see it through the lens. That's what gives us ideas, and you maybe pick something up from somewhere else that you don't get in your sphere. If that makes sense. But yeah, we get him in limbo, and then each time he battles as King Minos. He's like a tree sort of thing. Then that's that how he gets through. He doesn't get introduced to Virgil yet. No, I think that comes later. He ends up with a companion, a Roman philosopher. I'm trying to remember. Don't think that comes to later. He fights King Minos anyway, and then he goes to the next level, which is lust. And this, I think, is the whole crux of the story and how he got there. So, obviously, before he left, he had sex with his betrothed, and then he promised her he would love her and be true to her. It turns out that while he was on the Crusades, he got jiggy with one of the locals. And once again, it's back to this. You've got a free pass, son. You're absolved of all sin because I say so, because I need you to go mental over there. Not pulling your strings at all and telling you what you want to hear. Love manipulators. All great. And not just the Catholic religion and Christianity and all that kind of stuff. It's all across the board. You see it everywhere. It's just funny to see it out there. Yeah, so this all gets revealed that he went with one of the locals who was trying to save her husband. It's funny how your mindset, he didn't want to be a jailer. He booked it, but then he partook in cruelty. Now I'm all about soldiers in the battlefield, facing each other, honorable combat, all that kind of stuff. Cool. I don't like if you hate someone, end them. When you're capturing someone and torturing them, you're not on a crusade. If you're beating someone up in captivity, you're indulging something in yourself. That's not on a crusade to wipe out an enemy or a holy jihad or whatever it might be. You're a twisted fucker and you just get off having power over others. That's the bottom line. I'm gonna see a wee bit of this play out here. So Beatrice, when seeing that, getting that revealed, and this is all part of Lucifer's plan to Beatrice and kind of torment Dante as well. By revealing that to her, she then is like, do I really want to go back with him? And that's kind of what happens here. Begins. So that's all kind of played out, and then he goes to gluttony. Because it isn't it's kind of a twist on it. It's not the 7 deadly sins. It's kind of a twist on them. But we got gluttony, and then there's people in the lake, and they're, because they could not satisfy themselves food wise. And I'm a bit of a tubby chap. I just know, kind of a wee bit gluttonous myself. Actually, I'm a lazy shite. That's a problem. I spend too much time sitting on the backside. If I actually do a bit more exercise, I might be all right. But when your life revolves sitting in front of the computer screen, you kind of, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so we're seeing that. So because they're gluttonous in life, overindulged, then they're doomed to constantly consume but never be, or starve to death, as it was. Sorry, excuse me. Never feel full. Has he met Virgil's the? I think I missed that, but I think he met Virgil when he went into limbo, and then Virgil's been with him the whole time. But Virgil won't take part in the combat. That's kind of, he's like a guiding hand and tells him what he needs to do. I don't think he was in Lust though. That was a kind of personal sort of battle. But yeah, Cerberus is a 3-hounded guard dog of hell, hound of hell. And Cerberus at some point eats the souls that have been condemned. And then is that their final ending or something? I never quite got the reference, but Virgil tells Dante that for him to go to the next level of hell, he has to get eaten. So that's yeah, he goes into the beast. So that's the next level within hell. He encounters someone, is it from his village or that he's serving crusades with? He encounters somebody anyway, but he had brought with him a cross that Beatrice had given to him to take with him on the crusades. And he absolves this guy of his sins and forgives him using it. And then the guy disappears. This invokes Lucifer's wrath. He's like, how dare you free souls from hell? They're mine, kind of thing. And then he cuts his way through Cerberus, and then that takes him to the next level. That's the 4th circle, which is greed. So everything's all gold and stuff and that kind of thing. I'm kind of going through the plot of this, and I normally don't do this, but this is kind of an interesting one. It's a philosophical rather than just saying, no, it was good. As you can tell, I've enjoyed it because I'm actually intrigued by the plot. This is where he encounters his father, who's played by Mark Hamill. So Mark Hamill's very distinctive voice. That's really I pick it, take on to that. So it turns out his father killed himself. His mother killed himself too, or did his father die? I mean, his father's a bit of a dick. Let's just put it like that. Hoards wealth, beat them if he thought it was a couple of gold pieces but missing, all that kind of lovely stuff. So Dante ends up fighting his father and sort of destroying that. So after defeating his father, because his father was given reign over, he was spared 1,000 years of torture and something else by acting as an overlord over the 4th circle of hell. So he did a deal. This is where he goes into the 5th circle. No, it's the 5th circle's wrath. He goes into it, and I can't remember how. So sorry for that. You'll have to watch it yourself. Links in the description. we'll find out. I can't remember, somewhere along this point, it might have been during this, we'll find out that Beatrice made a bet with the devil. And this is where I'm talking about the hypocrisy. She bet the devil that Dante would stay true to her. And you're like, well, if you're pure, you wouldn't be making bets with the devil, you'd shun them. So it's like, yeah, what he's all playing up. You all kind of deserve your fate, you're idiots. But yeah, God, I'm losing my thought here. He meets somebody, fights them, and then this is where Lucifer announces that he's going to marry Beatrice, take as his betrothed, one of his concubines. And I think this is the taunt Dante, the whole point. So this kind of goes, I don't think much happens in Wrath. There was a bit of talk and stuff, but it was a bit of a part. More happened in Gluttony and actually Limbo as well. And there's a fight in every one of these levels, so it's very action oriented. But Wrath, you'd think, would be like a bit more action, but not too much happened. I think we better, have to spur some stuff long, because this had potential to be like 6 hours long. If you went really deep, like Big Bloody Review here, it's going on forever in each one. So they kind of shifted on a bit there. The sixth circle is heretics. And these are people who have committed crimes against God and they're sentenced to burn. So this is the sixth circle is the traditional hell in Christian mythology. It's a traditional lake of fire, all that kind of stuff. There's another part. There's the forest of suicides, and meets his mother, who apparently killed herself because of her father's treatment of him. So she had a moment of weakness, so she's condemned, and all suicides are condemned to this forest. So it goes from fire to like a barren forest. I don't really say it's the next point, because almost each level has a level within a level. Like Gluttony has not just you're sitting in the lake, but then you get eaten by Cerberus. Greed had you're going through your own torment, but Dante's father then inflicted the next level of pain on you, and that. Then you have the fire and the sort of the wood is the wood kindling for the fire is at the next level. It all kind of works in multiple levels here within levels. Like I said, you can really go deep in this. So he frees his mother's soul, uses the same technique, and once again, this is winding Lucifer up. So Lucifer's using Beatrice to taunt him more. And then he goes to the this is the sixth circle. So then the seventh circle, or ninth circle, the realm of fraud. Virgil's kind of back because he kind of disappeared for a bit, and then he returns, and then he plays out all what happened during the Crusade. So this is Dante's sins. He had sex with his betrothed before marriage. He betrays her. He commits atrocities outside the realms of a soldier fighting a holy war. He kind of goes through and gives all his he's mean, he's a bully, he shows himself to be craven, all that kind of stuff when it gets played out. And then we find out that one of the Arabs, the one he actually tortured and was beaten up, whose wife slept with him, he then followed him home, and it was him that killed his household as revenge. So he dishonored him by having sex with his wife, who only stepped up to save him. But in their culture, she shamed herself, so therefore he had to honor. We didn't really see that, but effectively he had to shun his wife, probably end her. So his wife effectively committed suicide in a sense. It's all different. It's about clashing philosophies, hypocrisy, and when you intentionally do harm on someone outside of fair combat or a fair fight, what it can lead to. It's all this kind of stuff played out. Like I said, quite interesting. So he goes back. He's the one that wiped out his household, and it's because of Dante's own actions that led him to this. Beatrice then weds Lucifer, but she does it willingly because she's watched Dante's actions. She's disgusted by him. So, and I think that's the whole thing of the devil. You have to go willingly. That's kind of the thing. There's no point being a captive slave. You have to willingly control yourself. It's so he couldn't just force her to marry him. She had to take that step herself, or else it'd be pointless. And then that's the whole idea of having the soul bound for heaven and corrupting her at the last minute, and then also to wind Dante up, because Dante's doing harm against him by freeing souls and taking people out of his dominion. All that kind of stuff. Quite interesting. What'll go next? Seven. What was the 8th circle? I can't remember the 8th circle. Yeah, I can't remember the 8th one. Sorry. So I have a couple of wee things here, just side notes. Didn't go plot for plot. The final one's treachery. I think I kind of skip over it. I don't know, it gets a wee bit jumbled at this point. And it's more about, I think, the wedding and Beatrice becoming. I think he fights Beatrice, tries to bring her back, and I think that became the 8th circle, but I can't remember what it's called. I think that's what happened. It was the 8th circle, was Dante fighting, he encounters Lucifer, Beatrice's new bride, so as a bride, no demon she becomes. She then fights Dante, and that's the 8th circle, but they didn't give it a name. And this is where this is where they hash it out almost. It's almost like a lover's tiff, but with swords and claws and all that kind of stuff. And she then forgives Dante. Dante brings the cross out again, this particular one. So she forgives Dante, and by doing so absolves herself. And then he releases her. And this time Lucifer can't do anything about it. And then that's where comes the final confrontation, where the 9th circle, which is treachery, that's Lucifer's domain. Dante goes in there, and this time, because we're always in the lake of fire, this is like a field of ice. And it turns out he then, because then it seems quite easy, he meets Lucifer, who almost looks mummified. What he didn't realize was this was all a trick, because Lucifer's physical body was entombed in the 9th circle of hell. And Dante, by steaming in and basically fighting him, frees him. So he could only exist, Lucifer could only influence in a corporeal sense. That's kind of the whole underlying thing of this. He could only exist in a corporeal sense. But by Dante coming in to face him, and the whole point of him kidnapping Beatrice was she was bait and nothing else to get Dante to travel, because he needed an immortal to travel the whole way. It was kind of, prophecies written and stuff. To think he was fighting, but actually he's releasing Lucifer's physical form. By releasing Lucifer's physical form, he could then go to the earth and wreak havoc, unlike his corporeal sense and only influence. So this looks as if all's done. He begs for forgiveness. That's kind of the crux. He acknowledges the sins that he committed, the wrongs he did, and then begs forgiveness. That gives him the jolt of power to defeat Lucifer and put him back in his prison. So it's all about humility, I suppose, at the end of the day. But what we find out is Beatrice was not, because she was corrupted, she couldn't go to heaven. So instead, she went to purgatory, which is a Catholic thing. That's the bit between life and death, heaven and hell sort of thing. You're supposed to walk, I don't know. That's a very specific term. But yeah, so instead of going back to heaven, she actually instead leaves hell and goes to purgatory. Dante then escapes hell, but he can't return to the land of the living either. So he goes to purgatory, and then that's kind of how this wraps up. That he's going to wander this land until he finds her, and she remains waiting for him. And of course, you don't see them get together. It's kind of part of the journey. It might happen, it might not. We don't know. It's kind of left open. They could be left to wander there in eternity, searching for each other in this strange state of on heaven or on hell, and not alive, not dead sort of thing. And that's kind of how it wrapped up. I'll have to say, despite this being Christian-based and talking about a specific period in history, there's a very Greek philosophical aspect of this. It's very interesting. You can see the almost Greek influences in this story, and it's, like I said, I put them all in the description. All the directors, mainly Japanese directors, but there's no anime feel, which I think if I had been would have cheapened this story, because that doesn't fit in this world. So it goes to show there's I know I'm making assumptions, but you would almost be forgiven for when you think of a Japanese animator. That's their style, or that's the style kind of the same as you see a Western animator. They're attributed to a particular style, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a slur. It's your culture tells you your stories. It's your upbringing. It's how you express yourself. But you see these guys have come in and they've taken this on, and they could have made it a certain way, but they didn't. They actually there's a lot of respect the way they did this. This was a good, well-told story, if I'm honest. For an animation, it was quite deep, and you can probably say, from near 40 minutes into your review. You know me, I only go this long if I don't like something, and I'll tell you why I don't like it. So, kind of shows but and it did give me pause for thought. And I like that. I like something that makes you think. It doesn't tell me the morality, if that makes sense. This is right, this is wrong, you must think like this. It poses the situation, and then you think to yourself, if I was in that time and space and went through that, would I be any different? If I was devout, believing that don't forget as well, 1100s, that the messengers of the church were the hand of God. That's the way they were portrayed. So if a priest or a rabbi, I know you don't have that reverence anymore, which I'm not saying it's good or bad, but that reverence towards somebody of the cloth, we don't have that I can't remember when the Inquisition was, but don't forget, if you were blasphemous, like horrible, gnarly stuff happened to you. That's same people. But if this person is a representative of the Almighty, goes, you've got a free pass, you cannot commit sin because I've said so, you're on a holy quest, what would you do? If you were told, this put it in modern context, you are absolved of all crime, you can do anything you want, like diplomatic immunity. Say you're given diplomatic immunity, but you're not a diplomat, and you're told you can do anything, every action you take is right. What would you do? And that's what this poses, and it was an interesting one for me to think. I'd be terrible, I'd be awful. Some of the laws of the land, and having the like my freedom. That's why I don't do gnarly stuff, and also I can't be a horse. Just like living my own life and being left alone. So there you go. I like being a weirdo and having hobbies. But it's good to have that introspection. What if you're taken out of the norms of society and you're put into a situation? What would you do? And that's what this whole thing poses. So you can't judge, because it's like, would I have been any different? The Beatrice making the bet with the devil, I don't get. That's only about makes me go, well, what? Why? But there you go. Really enjoyed it. It was different. I was not expecting it. That's my review. Check it out. Let me know what you think. If you watched this and enjoyed it, let me know the bits you enjoyed or what you got from it. If you've read the Divine Comedy, and you remember it, let me know the parallels. Did you get the same Greek mythology influences, which is interesting, come from Japanese directors that I did? Because eventually it's told as a Greek tragedy, which is an interesting storytelling mechanism in its own. If you didn't enjoy it, tell me why. Be interesting to know. But there you go. Keep up to date with the channel. Do the typey clicky things. And until next time, keep it creepy. Keep it horrific.